Hey, folks, how you doing? My name is Tim Black. Welcome to the Tim Black Show. I have a great opportunity today to present a guest that I've been trying to get on for a while. His name is the Funky Academic, a.k.a. Irami Osei Frimpong. Hope I pronounced that correct.
Yes, Osei Frimpong.
Osei Frimpong.
Yes, Irami Osei Frimpong. Thank you for your time, Tim.
Well, thank you. Well, I got to finish introducing you now. Okay. Irami is a professor. He's a philosopher, and he puts out a lot of very important, informative content, digital content on his channel and on his website, thefunkyacademic.com. Check the link description. You'll find links to all his stuff. Irami, man, thank you so much for joining me, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. I'm excited we finally get together and chop it up. We're about to be real relevant in the national discourse. So,
Irami puts out so many great pieces of content, guys. Neoliberalism, workers' rights, organizing, public goods. This guy's got a litany of very informative video content that you need to check out. So, because I'm serious, you need to go check that out now. But recently, Irami put out a video that was very comprehensive in describing what he says is Sanders' case to the black community. And I want to say, Irami, man, thank you so much for this content, because when I'm talking to black folks and I'm trying to say, and I'm saying, look, Sanders is the best opportunity we have in this race to move black people forward. It seems like every time someone yells out, reparations, man, reparations, and no reparations, I don't want to hear about it. So, Irami, thank you for laying it out. Could you, for the benefit of the audience, could you talk to folks a little bit about what you see as Sanders' case to the black community?
I think Sanders actually has a pretty decent case. It's not a perfect case, because if it were a perfect case, it would include like substantive reparations. However, as bad as Sanders is about like talking to black people in a black way, he's great on poverty, he's great on homelessness, he's great on jobs, and he's good, not great, but good on incarceration. I mean, he's out there trying to get felons to vote as they're convicted. So if you want to talk about underemployment and unemployment, that's us, that's black people. So you're not talking about black people, but if you want to talk about unemployment and underemployment, you're also talking about us. And if you want to talk about homeless, with what, 13% of the population, but 40 to 50% of the homeless population. So if you're guaranteeing housing as a right and you're serious about homelessness, you might not call it a black agenda, but homelessness is us. In every city in these United States with a homeless population, maybe not Iowa, but every other city with a homeless population, you look at the homeless population, you're going to see us, right? So if you're talking about joblessness or underemployment, that's black people. If you're talking about homelessness, you're talking about black people. If you're talking about mass incarceration and empowering people who are incarcerated, that's black people. So there's a way in which he's bad about talking about black people's issues to black people, but he talks about all of the issues that disproportionately affect black people. If you want to talk about medical debt, that's us, man. And then there's another medical debt, that's definitely us. Disproportionately, because we can't pay bills and we can't hold insurance. So if you want to talk about
student debt,
that's disproportionately black women.
Yeah,
that's disproportionately black women. So you can say, well, he doesn't have a black agenda. Yeah, he just wants to get rid of all your medical debt, your student debt, make sure you got a house and a good job. And you know what, black people, if every black person you know gets their debt wiped out and has a good job, we can come together and fight for reparations on our own. And because this is what people don't understand. The communities that get reparations, and in the United States, with support for reparations, in the United States, that's like the Japanese community for reparations for World War II, and then our support for making sure that current Israelis or Jews got reparations for their grandparents. Like that kind of successful reparations effort came from communities with the resources to fight for reparations.
That point right
so
there.
If you want to get reparations, you need to be able to pay the lawyers and pay the media operations to fight for reparations.
See, I thought all this time that the U.S. government was just willy-nilly just throwing money out to these organizations, to the Jews and to the Japanese who were in internment camps. I didn't know that they had to actually go to their government and how would you phrase that? They had
to
petition or lobby for it.
Right, lobby for it. You need lawyers, you need lawsuits. Look, What I want to do is make sure every black person has a good job and a good house and with disposable income, because you can't be a capitalist in a capitalist society. And you can't function in America without disposable income, not just paying your bills income, but like money on top of that. And so if every black person has a good job and a place to live and money on top of that, that way we can form dues paying organizations that will fight for the rest of like our cut to make us whole. Right. So imagine if every black listener had the money to sign up for your Patreon. Most of the people who support me, I mean, I guess they're black, but if they had more money, they would support me more, right? And so, and a lot of, honestly, the people who give me a lot of money, the $100 a month donations or the $50 a month donations, those people are white. I would rather they be black, but black people don't have it like that, so they can't support us. And if you support us, then we'll make the case. And if you support black dues paying organizations, your NAACPs, you can form your ADOS chapters. The more black people have black money, they can support black organizations, and that's when we'll have the political power to actually fight and get through reparations. So like Bernie Sanders is arguing for points that will put money and stability into black lives. And then once black lives are moneyed and stable, I think we can fight for the particular justice causes ourselves. That's what I think. But we can't fight for anything when we can't pay our light bills.
I mean, I love
when
that
we can't pay our medical debt.
I love that point of view, but when you talked about the Patreons, also, since like my core audience are mostly Bernie supporters, and Bernie supporters just happen to be the poorest group of supporters, like the average donation is like $18.
Yeah, and
that's the Bernie Sanders. So that's the guy. So you obviously you see what situation I'm in, where I have people that they say, Tim, I only got $3. I only had $2 a month. You know, so you know what I mean when I say that, but. Brother, when you laid this out, when you talked about health care, student loan debt, I just want to make sure we go through it in a way that people understand, because they say, Tim, you just love Bernie, man. You love Bernie too much, man.
No, I hate my medical debt.
There you go. There you go.
Look, listen, Bernie is a means. Just like all of these political candidates, Bernie is a means. I don't love it. He's not coming to my wedding. He's not coming to my funeral. If he can get rid of my medical debt, if he can get rid of my student loan debt, I just happen to pay off all of that debt. But like, if he can get rid of all my people's debt, because it's not just enough to be like one black person with a little bit of money and no debt. When you're surrounded by everybody else who's black having debt, that's not freedom. I want to be able to go with my people and build with them. But for me to be able to build with them, I need their debt wiped out. Not just my debt, I need their debt wiped out, right? I need them having good jobs, because like right now, instead of the money going to your Patreon or the funky academic, it's going to their cousin's bail. It's going to their cousin's medical debt. It's going to their nephew's school. So you take care of that, then they can give that money to our group efforts, and then we could fight for some black stuff. But we need like that debt wiped out. We need ground in order to fight. And right now we don't have ground. And that's why you have a lot of black people whose job is to do whatever like their white boss tells them to, because that's the only way they can have a job. And you can't fight when you can't be free. And if you're not free, if you have to do whatever your white boss tells you to do, right? So I'm trying to get the economic security for our people to be free, and then we can come together with disposable income and make our own claim with the right kind of political independence.
I love it.
So when Bernie talks about a federal job guarantee, you know what America looks like when black people don't have to also do their job, number one, do their job, and also make sure that their white boss is comfortable about being white. I don't know too many black people who just get to do their job and also not like make sure that their white boss is comfortable about being white. But with a federal job guarantee, all you have to do is do your job.
Do your job.
Just do your job. Like that's what freedom means. I just want to be able to do my job and not also take care of my white boss's feelings.
Yeah, because you know that if this job doesn't work out, you are guaranteed another job.
Right. I'm guaranteed another job. That's fine. All I have to do is do my job. That means I can both be black and do my job. Wow. Not do my job, but not be black because I might make my white boss nervous. That's a fundamentally different economy than any like black communities is used to in these United States. I know a good number of your audiences, maybe they haven't, have been fired for being too black.
Yeah.
Standing up for black people. Standing up for black people in the private market is a dangerous thing to do. in a private labor market, standing up for other black people, dangerous business. But now that emancipates the black workforce so that they could stand up for other black people and still have their job secure. Like right now, I'm downright unemployable just because I talk like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm downright unemployable. Like, I don't know what you're doing for your next job if like this goes out, but this is it.
Yeah.
You're all in.
Yeah.
Like Tim Black is now employable by Tim Black because he's not employable by DC. He's not going to be a Democratic strategist on Joe Biden's campaign.
No, that's not gonna happen. You know, whenever I watch your show, Irami, and your partner in crime, I think, who's there with you, not Matthew, but the other gentleman.
Yeah,
Sin.
Yeah.
When you guys talk about Prince George's County, it always rings home because that's where I'm from.
Oh,
right. So I know exactly when you talk about Fort Washington, and you guys are going on about how Prince George's County, richest black community. Yeah, it just happens to be the poorest people in the richest black community, the poorest of the. So I'm like, yeah, absolutely, brother. So I moved to Charles County, which is a little cheaper, but it's still adjacent to the richest black community.
You have to understand, when people think of Prince George's County, they think of that's where the black middle class is. Oh, if you're in Prince George's County, you're doing fine. If you're in Prince George's County, that means you've arrived. Yep. But you're from Prince George's County. There are a lot of black people in Prince George's County who have not arrived. Or if that's what arriving looks like, it's a very stressful sort of arrival.
Yeah, there are a lot of bad apartments in Prince George's County where they warehouse Negroes who can't afford to buy townhouses that are overpriced and shoddily built.
Right.
Okay? But
that's the best we're doing across the nation. Like you remember, I grew up in Baldwin Hills, and people are like, "Oh, you grew up in Baldwin Hills? That must be fancy." No, my mom was a single nurse, and she bought in Baldwin Hills in the '70s, and now we can't go back. We can't go back. Like, I don't know if you can go back to Prince George's County. I can't go back. But like, that's the best. People say like, well, in Atlanta, black people have money. Yeah, there are a lot of poor black people in Atlanta too. Like, I don't like, there is no place in the United States where black people are doing that well at the community level. Everywhere you'll find like a handful of black families doing well, but there's no place in the United States where black people are doing well at the community level. So if we lift that bottom up with a federal job guarantee, with a guaranteed housing, that frees us. And that frees us in a way that we don't even know. That like we can actually advocate without actually jeopardizing entire neighborhoods. Because right now, if you're a black family who does well, you're probably holding up like 10 or 15 cousins.
Yeah.
like if you got two stable black incomes, you're holding up. I know two people with two stable black incomes who are holding up a whole block.
Wow.
They're holding up a whole neighborhood. They're all tied to two stable white incomes. That means nobody's free. The people who with the two stable black incomes aren't free because they have to hold up a whole block, and nobody in that block is free because they're still scrambling and dependent on two stable black income. Like, so if you stabilize everybody in that block, we're free in a way that nobody can imagine. This is why King was talking about a federal job guarantee. Both Martin Luther and Coretta Scott King were talking about we need a federal job guarantee, because you can't be free in these United States without a job or a way to earn disposable income.
There you go. When you bring up freedom, you didn't bring up the freedom. I want to bring up the freedom dividend because I have a lot of people that follow me, particularly on Twitter, who supported Andrew Yang. And that is all they talk about is this universal basic income. Freedom dividend is Andrew Yang's version of the UBI. And he loves to say how Martin Luther King Jr. supported a universal basic income, but he leaves out the federal jobs guarantee portion of that. What's your opinion of these two pieces, of these two ideas, these solutions for poverty and for homelessness and all these other? I tend to believe that I like UBI. I do. I think both would work. I don't know about Andrew's version of it, but what's your opinion, Irami?
All right, so we're talking about $1,000 a month. I don't think we have $1,000 a month problems, especially that's what it ends up being is guaranteed rent for your landlord. Right? You keep my medical debt, you keep my student debt, you just give me an extra $1,000 a month. What that does is secure a lot of landlords, because we're only about a 42% home ownership rate. So it secures a lot of landlords and maybe some light companies, but it doesn't give us the disposable income. Also, we don't have control over what's produced or what price it's produced at. Right? So with a federal job guarantee, you have a productive say in the economy. You can go on strike. You could use other kind of power. like you're in the infrastructure. Plus, when you have money but you don't control anything else of the market, when you have a little bit of money but you don't control anything else in the market, you still don't have any power because you don't actually have. I just don't think we have $1,000 a month problems. I mean, $1,000 a month would be nice. It would help, but that doesn't give us productive power, right? Like, even like to run a business, what it does, the group that it's the best for is white people with family money.
There you
right?
go.
So if you're a white person with family money, you have this $1,000 a month. You can go have an internship that covers your cost of living, and then when your car breaks down, you're still fine because you can call uncle to give you the $2,000 transmission or whatever. Or when it's time to start a business. When it's time to start a business, you can't start a business on $1,000 a month. When it's time to start a business, you need $30,000 for equipment, for marketing. Black businesses, apparently we start more businesses than our white counterparts. They just fail at a higher rate because it costs money to run a business. You need a marketing budget. You need like equipment that works, not equipment that just kind of works sometimes. So the idea that you can start a business on $1,000 a month is just ridiculous. But what it can do is buy time while you work an internship. And then when you get serious about starting a business, you make a few phone calls to your parents and your uncle or your church, and then they write you a $30,000 check. Because that's how businesses really get started.
Wow.
Right? So when Yang talks about how a UBI will make us entrepreneurial, no, it'll just create more failing Black businesses, maybe. Like I don't, because it doesn't give us any control in the market. It doesn't like that's just not honest about what it takes to make a business.
You know, originally when I heard like Yvette and Antonio talk about this, I'll be honest with you, Irami, it really made me disheartened because I had already started a business, brother.
Did you have marketing fees? Did you have a marketing budget?
I just worked harder. So I still had the employee mentality that if I work harder, things will just work out.
No, you can't work harder to a microphone that works. You need a microphone that works all the time. You need the good software.
There you go.
You want the good software.
It took a very long time for me to get my legs underneath. And if I would have known then, Irami, what it took, I never would have done it. I swear, brother, I never would have done it. But they say, I guess ignorance is bliss. So I was able to sustain long enough just because I had a little bit of cash saved away from I was a government contractor.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I stacked up a little paper, but brother, like looking back, and it's I'm not saying this to discourage anyone. I'm just being honest and real with you. If you don't have a marketing budget, if you don't have budget to promote your business, if you don't have the ability to buy the tools, the equipment, then you are really behind. You are competing in a market where other people do. You got to own
other people do.
Other people do.
Yeah. Michael Brooks is great, but he's got other money.
Yeah.
like Crystal Ball and Rising is great, but like they have other money.
Yeah.
That sustains. All of their equipment works all of the time. They have production people who are actually people, not themselves, who are doing everything behind the scenes and then also running in front of the camera to do that. They can pay people to get things that work, graphics that work all of the time. So what do you think about that $30,000 number? Am I being ridiculous? Like if you're trying to start a real business, I think you need 30K. I mean, there's some studies that back it up, but does that number sound about right?
It sounds about right. And I think realistically, that's about as much as I dumped into it over the last 4 years in order to get to a point where now I have a backup computer. Now I have a backup mixer in case something goes wrong. Like, and that was just this year, man. And I've been doing this 7 years that I'm now in a position where, hey, this goes out, I'll just swap it out. I was never in that position before, and that's being completely honest with you.
Yeah, and that matters, right? So you give people a job. I would like to start the federal job guarantee at $22 an hour, but standards are starting at $15. So that's about $35K a year. You give people a $35K a year job, no matter what. Like you get fired, you land on $35K a year. That's more than $1,000 a month. That money, $35K a year, especially with someone else, you could actually save. And then it doesn't take too long to save $30K to actually start a real business, right? And you're also gaining skills as a productive part of the cultural infrastructure or the material infrastructure in that job. right?
But Andrew Yang said, Arami, that most people don't want to work for the government. Bernie Sanders is flawed because he thinks that people just want to work for the government and put on a gray jumpsuit and put a barcode on their foreheads. And I think that Andrew Yang is disconnected from the plight of black people, because when I grew up, we all wanted to work for the government. I used to from Maryland, I used to look over at Marion Barry's people and say, God, those kids got it good, because they all were promised government jobs in the summer. We didn't have that luxury.
You have to understand that, first of all, black people are the most unionized of any other demographic, because the private market does not absorb stigmatized communities, that's us, at fair wages and working conditions. So insofar as we have stable jobs, we're disproportionately unionized. Also, what black money there is government jobs. It's your black teacher married to your black maintenance worker, and they'd stay married and there's no divorce. That's your black millionaire. Like 2 generations of that. That's what black money looks like. It's not an accident that the one county with a solid black middle class is right next to DC. because what money is in Prince George's County is black government jobs, people with stable black government jobs. So you give my nephew or my nieces or my cousins a guaranteed job with the government if they graduate high school. Maybe they don't have to go to college, they just get a guaranteed $20 an hour job with the government doing good work. You get that guaranteed contract job, that stabilizes the black community in a way that we just don't even know. We don't have a problem working. And we don't have a problem working for $15, $18 an hour. We do have a problem working $9 an hour. I don't want to throw out my back for $9 an hour. I'm not throwing out my back for $10 an hour. So that's I'm not doing it. But you give me you guarantee everybody in my community a $15 an hour job doing work. We will do that work and we will save. Our savings rates are better at that income level than our white counterparts. We save just fine. But we just don't make any money. You just can't save off of $9 an hour. You could save you save 10 years off of $9 an hour, save 10 years off of $10 an hour, and then have that all work, all wiped out by a check engine light.
Every year or so, they throw out this old guy or old woman who's been saving 20 cents for the last 50 years and somehow became a millionaire. And that's, to me, it's just a way, it's this biggest lie that you can just save your way through poverty by putting aside a couple of cents a month.
No, like I said, all of that, you could save 10 years and have that all wiped out with a check engine light. just one thing. You have one bad diagnosis, boom. Last 15 years of your life just gone. Poof.
Absolutely. So Rami, what he's basically saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, the policies that Bernie advocates for, that he's been fighting for and talking about for the last 30, 40 years, are policies, he may not say black, but these disproportionately affect black people. And it's amazing because when I sat down with Brianna Greyjoy, who's a spokesperson for the Bernie Sanders campaign, she actually asked me this question. She said, Tim, what are we doing wrong? Why aren't black people more resonant? Why is this not resonating with them more? And I told them, they want to hear you say the word black.
It's not that complicated. They want to hear you say the word, and not people of color either. They want to hear they're doing this for the black community. We're guaranteeing people black jobs. They just want to hear you say the word black. But Bernie's not the greatest at saying the word black, right?
Right.
So that's the one thing. But he's serious about securing everyone a job. He's serious about securing everyone a house. He's serious about securing your medical debt. So I'm okay with that. I'm okay because nobody else is actually serious about securing us in that way. So you secure me and all of my people a good job in a productive place in the community, which he can do. And there's so many jobs that need to get done. Do you know? We have an elder care crisis in the United States just because we don't have enough people checking in on old people. So they're growing old and dying in their houses and nobody checks in on them. Because you know how much an elder care facility costs? More than $1,000 a month for a UBI. It costs, an elder care community, I've heard anywhere from $4,000 to $8,000 a month.
Wow.
Right. So we can't pay for that. Wow. We can't pay for that. We need public facilities. We can't pay for that, and we can't put together money without serious elder care. You can't save up for that either, right? So we need a state-sponsored elder care communities and a series of them, and people doing wellness checks on those people. Those are all jobs we could do, like a wellness check, just going in and checking in on older people just to make sure that they're still there. That would be great. And that would free up their kids to also work jobs because, and this disproportionately affects women, right? So like if nobody's checking in on grandma, that's going to disproportionately affect the 40-year-old son or daughter who then has to go check in on their mother, but then also get time off of work to do that. And so it's going to like strain the relationship at work. So the idea that we don't have work that needs to be done, that rich people can pay for. Like, I don't know how Andrew Yang's parents are doing, or if they're still with us, but I suspect like
they're doing okay.
They're doing okay, right? And if it came to something, they could pay the $3,000 a month or the $4,000 a month or the $8,000 a month to put them in a facility, in the appropriate facility. So we need not just like a little bit of extra money, we need the infrastructure. Because a lot of these UBI people, they assume that there's something magical called the market that will just provide, and that things don't need to be produced, and that there's not more things that need to be produced. Without a UBI, with just a UBI and not the WPA, nobody would know who Orson Welles is, because Orson Welles got his start in a WPA theater. Nobody would know who Arthur Miller is, the guy who wrote Death of a Salesman, because like Death of a Salesman, like a lot of these plays, he was a WPA writer. So as much as I like doing this, I would much rather have had my start working for like a community broadcasting network, and then take that skills and the extra money I paid, I earned while working there, to start my own thing, right? I was a freelance musician for a while. I'm a pretty good oboe player. A lot of people don't know this. Wow. I play the oboe better than most people play the oboe. But if you gave me a chance to like go back to my hungering 20 freelance musician oboeing versus playing with a community symphony at $40,000 a year, wow, I would probably still be playing oboe if I was at a community symphony, and then giving lessons on the side, right? So securing Black people with a job, a recognized job that pays more than just a pittance, is much better than just putting everyone on $1,000 a month, because you can't do it on $1,000 a month.
Well, let's just agree to something that I think that they're hitting Bernie with right now, and that's socialism. They're saying that Bernie Sanders can't beat Donald Trump because he's going to label with this thing called socialism. And you also talk about public goods. So if we could kind of like tie those things together and let people understand exactly what that is and how public goods play into it.
So this is important because people need to understand how to talk about socialism in a way that's not, especially democratic socialism, in a way that's not scary. First of all, capitalism means that your work life is all governed by what's good for shareholder profit, right? It's good for the owner. It might not be good for the employee. It's good for the owner, but it might not be good for the employee. The problem is America is a nation of employees, right? 95% of the people who work for somebody. We all have, like 95% of the people have bosses. There's no shame in having a boss.
Right.
That's a small business in the United States is 500 employees or less. It makes me wonder if Black people own any big business.
Wow.
Like, do you know any Black person who has 500 employees?
Definitely not the root.
Not the root. 500 employees. 500. So like, we don't even know what like a regular business is. Like in terms of ownership, right? Wow. So in capitalist economy, it's organized for the owners, which is great, right? I like capitalism in some way. Capitalism isn't going to desegregate my school. It's not going to keep my water clean. It's not going to
make
provide
the roads work. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not going to provide all jobs for all of my people. So but it is going to produce like pretty nice phones and stuff, right? So I like capitalism to an extent. I just don't expect it to do everything, right? And then you have like people like world socialism. That's kind of like communism. No, communism is where the party boss tells you what to do. Communism is what I'm scared of is what's gonna happen at the DNC when the superdelegates come in and like overrule the will of the people. So if there's a communist element in American politics, it's with party bosses overruling democratic rights. It's with the superdelegates. It's with Tom Perez, right? Wow. Democratic socialism is about securing people's rights, but not just property rights, also employment rights, also the right to clean water. People have to understand that in when the nation was founded in 1776, when they were designing the Constitution, it was under the assumption that everyone was going to be self-employed. If you wanted to be self-employed, you could be self-employed. We had an infinite amount of land, and this is pre-industrial society, right? So you had an infinite amount of land. All you had to do is be willing to kill a few Indians, Native Americans, and not only that, this is pre-industrial. So the big factory, the factory of like Adam Smith and the Wealth of Nation and all that, the factory that they're thinking of that could be so great as an engine of growth, that factory was 10 people. So yeah, this is before the cotton gin, before we considered black people and employees. So like they didn't think about a nation of employees when securing our rights. So we need not just or a nation of spouses, right? So like spouses were considered property. So like we need not just property rights, but we also need to talk about employee rights. We also need to talk about family rights. We also need to talk about environment. They weren't concerned about environmental destruction. They weren't thinking, well, you know, the economy, if we just leave it up to all of these industrial, if we just leave it all up to these self-employed entrepreneurs, they're going to screw up the economy. No, that wasn't a worry about them because they didn't have to worry about industrial waste because this was a pre-industrial society. So we need to talk about all of these other rights. So what democratic socialism does is actually get all of these other rights into the conversation. So we talk about property rights, we talk about labor rights, we talk about environmental rights, we talk about healthcare rights, because the goal of a free society, a self-determined society, is that people can actually make a plan for their lives and then enact that plan without some sort of tyranny. So whereas the founders were worried about the tyranny of King George and some foreign parliament telling them what to do, we have to worry about the tyranny of our boss. I have to worry about my boss being in a bad mood. Yeah. Like that's definitely another kind of tyranny. That's not a tyranny that the founders were worried about. They're worried about King George. But I'm worried about my boss being in a bad mood, eating something, getting into a fight with his old lady, so he comes and then gets on my case about something. That's another kind of tyranny. There's this book called Private Government by Elizabeth Anderson, and in there she has this story about an Amazon warehouse where these people are working at an Amazon warehouse, and Amazon makes a decision where instead of installing an HVAC system, a heating and cooling air conditioning system, they have ambulances waiting outside, so when people faint, they can just rush them to the hospital. It's just cheaper that way. So instead of that, I want workers. I still want Amazon because I like hitting my button and stuff gets delivered to me. I just want workers to be able to negotiate their working conditions and not be under the tyranny of some bean counter from McKinsey who says, well, you know, it's cheaper if we just have ambulances outside and then not install an HVAC system. Right. So these are the kind of rights we need to talk about and only get into the discussion like in democratic socialism, because if you're just worried about shareholder profit says like, well, you know, a Negro can faint every now and then and we'll just get a new one.
Right. Get us a new Negro in here. We're good.
This one's broken. This one's broken. Get us a new one.
Yeah.
And for $9 an hour. No, we want to be able to be treated like employees. And white people get treated like employees, and I just want everybody to be treated like an employee, and that means you get a fair say in your working condition, just a fair say. I just want air conditioning. That's not too much.
You know, when they say that, you know, the democratic socialism label is going to scare away voters, I tend to disagree, man. I think that most people don't care about that label. This is not the 50s, you know?
We're past the Cold War. The label's not working. And if you just talk about it, no, it's just guaranteeing people's rights. It's just another form. It's just all of these other rights, right? And right now we're at the tyranny of a medical bill, right? I'm less scared of the diagnosis than the bill that comes after the diagnosis. I know we both probably know people who, if they fall down and break something, they'll tell you, don't call an ambulance. That's another form of tyranny. Like that's another form of external control over my life. Like in a well-ordered world, I'd like to be able to call an ambulance if my heart beats funny. But now it's just like, well, I guess I'll call Uber because I don't want that extra $1,000 bill.
Yes.
And that's no way to live life. So you're always scared of like contingencies that aren't in your control. So socialism takes all of these contingencies and puts them under preventable political control, right? So now instead of saying, well, my boss decided I don't need air conditioning, like now I get to bargain about whether like I get air conditioning at my warehouse. If that's democratic socialism, I'm about it. It just gives you bargaining power in like these factors and actions in your life that without that aren't under your control. It's either, well, you could either find another job at another warehouse that doesn't have air conditioning. Like that's not the answer. The answer is actually getting people a fair say in their working conditions so that they could bargain, what their wages and working conditions are like in a fair way. And you do that through unions. And this is what Bernie understands that a lot of other people don't. So the democratic socialism is just securing us all of these other rights, as opposed to just the right to starve or the right to call Uber as opposed to an ambulance.
When you said that white folks, they get to become real employees where they have a say in their futures or in the conditions in which they work. Yeah.
They get vacations, they get 2 weeks off, they get family leave, they get a 401k, and they certainly get more than $9 an hour.
Yeah.
And being an employee isn't that bad. The problem is we've made being a black employee so bad that it just looks like I guess I just have to go on business on my own. Like, but if we made actually being a black employee good, and the only employer that does that in the United States is actually the government. If we made actually being a black employee good, if they were treated like white employees, we'd see that there's a virtue in working like being an employee. And the American economy, as an advanced industrial economy, needs employees. Let's stop pretending that like everyone can do it. Everyone can or should do it on their own. No, I want an Amazon. I want a Walmart. I just want to make sure that people are paid well.
Right. Absolutely. When we talk about employee, I can't help but think about Michael Bloomberg. And I think we talked about it earlier about how he's just buying up Negroes. He's buying up black people, man. He just brought Muriel Bowser here, the D.C. mayor. I mean, he's looking around, and I saw an interview yesterday.
Because we're broke. You can get us cheap.
Yeah. Yeah, because he's paying money. He's paying real money to black pastors. People are DMing me saying he's going down south. He's just buying pastors, man. So,
because pastors, if they care about their church, they also care about having their church's roof fixed. He's buying off all that deferred maintenance. And so, like, maybe, look, if you've been trying to get your pipes fixed for 5 years, it might look like a sign from above when a billionaire from New York is cutting checks and all of his checks clear. His checks clear.
The Lord sent you to me, Michael Bloomberg.
Yeah. My church has been needing a restoration to get this lead off the paint, and now like I got a billionaire. So yeah, he's buying black people because we are for sale because we don't have money, and in America everything costs. So I feel bad. It's like I think he bought not just the mayor of D.C. He was like buying a congressman out in Illinois, Bobby Rush. The ex-Panther, he like all of these people, because Bloomberg's checks cash, and like he's securing your kid's inheritance. So I don't blame him, but that just says we're in a desperate place as a community. We don't have independence. We can't say no to Bloomberg's money. I don't blame any of the people who are saying yes to Bloomberg's money.
Oh, I have to.
You have to?
I have to, brother. I have to, because the only way we create these coalitions or organize ourselves is if we're able to have media that speaks truth to power. And if you can't speak truth to power, you can't galvanize people. You can't get the word out. And you got Michael Bloomberg able to do whatever Michael Bloomberg wants to do. And damn it, stop and frisk.
Right. Think about it. Think about all of the people who are going to get sent to interview Michael Bloomberg, but in the back of their mind are thinking, you know what? Bloomberg News pays pretty good salary. So I don't want to interview him too hard because like I might need a job after this. Yeah. And he honestly, and not a lot of black people will say this, but I'll say it because I'm on your show. I think Elizabeth Warren paid for a lot of her endorsements through just indirect ways. Through being, having her daughter like write checks for demos, and like there are a lot of like we're for sale because we don't have money, and we don't have money. We're independent. So back to Bloomberg. If you're a media personality and you're thinking, well, I might want a job for Bloomberg News, are you really going to be hard on the interview? Are you really going to give it to them when you're in front of them? It takes a lot to be mean to a billionaire to their face.
Yeah.
Because if they just cough, especially a multi-billionaire, if Michael Bloomberg just coughs, that's like $200,000. And that's a life-changing amount.
Wow. Yeah, it is. It absolutely is. And
so do you think you could hold your own with Bloomberg on the other mic? You would look him right in the face. Because not only are you jeopardizing a job with Bloomberg, you're jeopardizing a job with anyone Bloomberg supports. And he sports a lot of satellite organizations. But you could do it, Tim Black, the journalist, in Bloomberg's face, giving him the hard interview, or you're going to be asking for hot sauce.
I got to go down with the ship, man, but I came this far. I've already burnt my bridges. I already burnt my boats. I burnt my boats. Now, for someone young just getting started, I get your point. You know what I mean? They're more optimistic about what the future holds. You know, they're looking at all the opportunities. To Bloom.
If I'm just a little bit soft on him, like whole doors open up for my life.
Wow. And this is the plight. So a well-funded or a sustainable Black community is a better community for all. Like, we don't have weak links in the chain.
No, we're independent. A pastor can say no to Bloomberg's money because they get their money from the congregation's tithes. Right? Wow. So that's what happens when everybody has a good job. You can get, we're independents. We don't have to suck up. We don't have to suck up to the Bloombergs of the world. And that's good for them too, because if you're Bloomberg, you don't know who your friend is. You don't know who's just has your money in your pocket. Right now, they're a handful of Black people with money. But do those Black people with money have friends? Or do they have to or when they go to a family reunion, do they have to, they can't give out their phone number because everyone's hitting them up. Yeah. No, but if everyone's secure, you can go out and not get hit up, which is, I think, a better place to be as a community. I always tell people, real wealth is at the community level. It's not just about your bank account. You want everybody around you to be both Black and have a substantial savings and money coming in, right? That's when you're wealthy, because you can actually have real relationships with people. That's when you're doing well. If it's just you having a lot of, you have to keep quiet. You have to move.
Yeah, or you become the bank.
You become the bank you're holding up a whole community. You don't want that kind of responsibility. That's not freedom.
Yeah, I don't think white people understand that there are poor white people. We understand that, we get it, but there's something pathological about being Black and being poor that we all know about it. Like, too many Black people know what Irami's saying when he says, "Hey, you sick? You need to sit down. You better just sit down for a while. Go to sleep. Take a nap. Take some Robitussin." Because this is something that's across the spectrum of Black people. You know, when you got to shut up on the job and just just take it. Did he grab your ass? Well, maybe he did. Well, you'll be okay. You had your ass grabbed before. What's wrong with you? Get on there. Be quiet. You know, keep that good job. So because this permeates. I had Dr. Sandy Darity on the show, and we talked about that Black folks have 10% of the wealth of the average white family. So when you look at it from that lens, it puts things in perspective.
Yeah, that's 10% of the health care. That's 10% of the investment capital. That's 10%. That's 10% of the life. We don't live, Black people. I say what I say now because I don't know how long I live. Black men don't live that long because it's stressful. Our health outcomes are not good.
When Chris Rock said, "Hey, there's a one-legged busboy in here somewhere who wouldn't trade places with me, and I'm rich," and everyone laughed. But the truth, that was a truthful statement. Do you see the irony and the pain in that statement? The reality that just because he's Black, even though he's rich, a poor white guy wouldn't trade places with him because he knows the penalty of Blackness.
Yeah, the penalty of Blackness. We can't fake not being Black. Actually, honestly, Black people of a certain race, they spend a lot of time trying to pretend that they're not Black and that they're white, but it doesn't work. It just adds more stress and it confuses their kids.
Cory Booker.
And so this is no way to live life. What you want is just a stable Black community. You want every Black community to be like what we think Prince George's county is.
Right.
Not even the way Prince George's County is, because the way it is isn't what we think it is.
Yes.
We want it to be like we think it is, right? But instead we get Gary. Anybody, and then people say, "Why you always talk about Gary?" Because you've never been to Gary. Once you go to Gary, you'll realize this isn't where you want to be.
Oh my
people
God.
talk about Selma. So people are like, "Well, we've arrived at Selma. You go to Selma now. It's not someplace you want to be."
Brother, I went to the People's Summit and we drove through, me and the wife, we stopped through Gary, Indiana because of Michael Jackson. My wife's a big Michael Jackson fan, and Gary, Indiana is one of the most depressing places that I've ever seen. And look, I've been in bad places in Baltimore, Maryland. Oh, brother, that's nothing. They have nothing on Gary, Indiana.
Nothing except poor Black people. Nothing except poor. Ferguson isn't just in Ferguson. It's a lot of places. And the way you secure that is securing everyone a good job and wiping away their debt. So if Bernie does that, we're for him. We could fight for the rest.
I love it, man. Thank you so much for taking time out, Irami. Tell people where to go to find out more about your work and to support your work.
All right, so you can go to thefunkyacademic.com or funkyacademic.com, and you'll find me and all my videos. I run a show every Friday at 4 p.m.-ish here in the community. I do local politics, but also political theory, because when I'm not doing this, I'm a PhD student at the University of Georgia. So I run it in Athens, Georgia, and I try to just kind of clarify the fight for people, because that's one thing that people need. They need the resources to fight, but they also need to clarify the fight. And Black people, Bernie isn't the problem with America. Bernie's good for Black communities. He's not everything, but I think he gets us on our feet for us to fight for the rest, because the people who get justice in the United States have money to fight for justice in the United States. And if Bernie gets us that money and gets us those resources, we'll get the rest, we'll secure us and make Black communities whole. So thank you for your time. And
thank you for your time, man. This is perfect, man. And seriously, we're done. Man, thank you. Look, guys, go to thefunkyacademic.com. Let me add that part in there. Go ahead and subscribe today. I know you're going to do it. And put Irami in your lineup.